You may be wondering how to play Windows games on your Steam Deck. In this video, I'll share my hands-on experience with three methods: Nvidia Geforce Now, using a micro SD card to dual boot Windows and SteamOS, and Xbox Cloud Gaming. I'm going to go over how I installed each of them and how they performed, and for each I'm going to answer whether I think that effort to get them running was worth it. Or in other words, was the juice worth the squeeze? I want to start with Nvidia Geforce Now because it's the easiest to install. To do the install, I had to go to desktop mode. I went to Nvidia Geforce Now's website. Nvidia has a download specifically for the Steam Deck. After the download, I opened the file and went to Geforce Now Setup. I clicked Execute and agreed to its licensing terms. Once it was finished, Geforce Now gave me instructions on how to start playing. I just clicked OK, and then I returned to gaming mode. I found Geforce Now within my library under non-Steam games. After I started it, I agreed to their terms and conditions, then used my phone to log into my account. Nvidia offers 3 tiers on Geforce Now. The free tier gives you access to a basic gaming system. However, you're going to have to wait to play a game. During my time with it, I had up to 300 players waiting in front of me, and down to as little as 57 in front of me at times. And during my wait time, I had to sit through an ad. That being said, gameplay using this tier was fine. I was able to play Call of Duty, but I didn't experience a lot of stutter that interrupted gameplay. Also, all of the controls worked natively. I didn't have to make any adjustments to the settings. Now, I know in my mind that whenever you're cloud gaming, there's going to be latency. But it wasn't enough that made me think that it was completely unplayable. When I was eventually able to play, I had an enjoyable experience using the free tier. But, quite frankly, I found having to wait to play a game to be completely unbearable, especially when there was over 300 players in front of me. So I went ahead and signed up for the $9.99 tier. With this price, you get the use of an RTX rig, shorter wait times, and 6-hour length sessions. Although there is a caveat, which I will discuss in a second. For me, the performance tier was definitely worth it. I didn't have to sit through any ads, and my wait only included the amount of time it took to load a game. In this tier, I also saw improvements in graphics quality. For reference, my internet speed was 153 megabits per second download and upload. Now, for that caveat regarding playtime, Nvidia has instituted a 100 hours per month limit on game time, which averages to about 3 hours per day, with a 15-hour carryover the next month. This really didn't affect me and the way I play, but it is something you should take into consideration in terms of pricing. So, to answer the question, overall, I really like the extremely simple installation. Games are stored in the cloud, so you don't have to download, install, or update them. The controls worked without me having to adjust anything, and the fact that they have a free, although limited tier. But that monthly limit on game time kind of bothers me. I just wonder how long it's going to be before they decrease that time or charge more. But overall, I think the juice is definitely worth the squeeze. I'm going to install Windows on this micro SD card in order to dual boot it with SteamOS. I left links in the description below for all the guides I used for this install. I went to the Windows 11 webpage and downloaded their media creation tool. I opened the file, agreed to their licensing agreement, selected my language, and selected ISO file. I went to the Microsoft Store and got a copy of Rufus in order to burn the ISO onto a micro SD card. Within Rufus, I selected List USB hard drives. Rufus recognized my 1TB micro SD card. Under Image option, I selected Windows to Go. I clicked Start in order to begin the burning process. I selected Windows 11 Home. On the next pop-up, I made sure there were check marks next to Prevent Windows to Go from accessing internal disk and Remove requirement for an online Microsoft account. I also selected Set regional options to the same values as this user's and disable data collection. I hit OK and agreed that everything on the micro SD would be destroyed. After Rufus finished burning the ISO, I created a new folder on the SD card and named it Steam Deck. I went to the Steam Deck's Windows Resources webpage to download several drivers needed for the install. I went to my downloads and extracted the files into the folder I created. After I finished extracting the files, I installed the micro SD card into my Steam Deck. I held volume down and pressed the power button in order to get to the boot menu. I selected EFI SDMMC as my boot device. The Steam Deck went through the process of installing Windows. In terms of Windows installation, everything was normal except for 2 things that I did differently. First, I didn't immediately connect to Wi-Fi. I'm going to wait until I install the Wi-Fi drivers I downloaded from Steam's Windows Resources page. Also, I didn't set up a password, I just skipped over it. Once Windows was finished installing, my first step was to go into Settings and change my display orientation from Portrait to Landscape. I then went into the Steam Deck folder I created on the micro SD card. Then I installed the Windows Wi-Fi drivers and the others that I downloaded. I went into YouTube and made sure my Wi-Fi and audio drivers were working. I tried connecting my ROG Ally X to an RTX 3060 graphics card. I immediately noticed several issues using a micro SD card to dual boot Windows with SteamOS. First off, it took a long time to download or start anything. I sped everything up for this video, but things took a while. On top of that, when I played Call of Duty, there were moments when the game would just suddenly stop, then immediately start again. That's not something I ever noticed with GeForce Now. Now, the stuttering wasn't constant, and it didn't completely ruin the experience, but it definitely made Call of Duty multiplayer less enjoyable. Smooth performance in a first-person shooter is a big deal, and those stutters really took away from the fun. I also had an issue when I tried to play Valorant. While I could launch the game, I wasn't able to actually play, because Valorant requires secure boot to be enabled on the system. Now, it wasn't all negative. After I downloaded Call of Duty from Steam and started playing, all the controls worked perfectly. I didn't have to adjust anything. Not so much for Fortnite from Epic Games. In order to get my Steam Deck's controls to work with Fortnite, I went to Steamdeck Tools. I installed the VGIE bus driver. I also installed the Steamdeck Windows control driver. Finally, I clicked on the Microsoft Visual C++ redistributable, clicked Repair, and allowed it to go through the process. It didn't always work perfectly. There were instances in which I had to use the touchscreen, like here when I wanted to return to lobby, but I didn't notice any issues while I was actually playing Fortnite. I did run into an issue when playing Zenless Zone Zero, where the controllers wouldn't work, but I was able to get them working again by pressing the hamburger button. In terms of using a micro SD card to dual boot Windows and SteamOS, the good part is that you don't have to pay a monthly fee. You'll have native access to other game platforms like Epic without the use of a workaround. If you want to, you can use Windows for productivity applications which are not supported on SteamOS. And if you don't like Windows, you can just remove the SD card and SteamOS will be untouched. However, there's a lot of steps to set it up, and you're going to have to be willing to troubleshoot. Some controls may not work as seamlessly as on SteamOS. Windows requires the installation of specific drivers. Running an SD card is going to be slower than an internal SSD, and SD cards have a limited write cycle and can wear out faster with normal usage. So for most people, I really don't think that the juice is worth the squeeze in this case. Adding Xbox Cloud Gaming to the Steam Deck took a little bit more effort than GeForce Now, but it was nowhere near as complex as trying to dual boot Windows. I had to go back into desktop mode and first install Microsoft Edge. Then I added it to my Steam account. I went into console and added the following script. I went into the Steam library, found Microsoft Edge, and went to Properties. I changed the name of the shortcut from Microsoft Edge to Xbox Cloud Gaming. I then added the following information to the end of launch options, making sure to leave a space between the quotation mark and my entry. I returned to gaming mode and I was able to find Xbox Cloud Gaming under non-Steam games. I clicked play and then signed in on my Microsoft account. Gaming on Xbox Cloud was similar to GeForce Now in that I didn't experience a whole lot of lag or stuttering that took away from the gaming experience. Also, all of my Steam Deck controls worked without me having to adjust anything. My Xbox Cloud subscription allowed me to play a number of games for free. For example, I was able to play Injustice 2 without buying it, and the same went for Indiana Jones and the Last Circle. Unfortunately, Microsoft only has one tier that allows you to play Xbox Cloud, and that'll set you back $19.99 a month. So, as far as Xbox Cloud Gaming is concerned, I like that installation isn't too complicated, all of the controls worked and I didn't have to adjust anything. There are a lot of free games that you can try out without purchasing them, and it's cloud-based, so you don't have to download or install anything. But I really don't like the $20 price on the monthly subscription. And since you don't own any of the free games, Microsoft can remove access to them at any time. Also, you'll need a good internet connection to play any game on Xbox Cloud. Although for me that's not a problem since I mostly use it for multiplayer games like Call of Duty and Fortnite, which require good internet access anyway. I think the performance of Xbox Cloud Gaming makes it worth installing. However, you'll need to decide for yourself if the $20 monthly price tag is worth it. Alright, I've been joking around with this analogy, but I want to break down who I think each of these options are really for. If you've already built a library of games or enjoy purchasing games outright, Nvidia Geforce Now is probably your best bet. In my opinion, Nvidia's mid-tier Geforce Now subscription at $9.99 offers the best value. If you prefer exploring new games without committing to buying them, then Xbox Cloud Gaming is worth a try if you're willing to pay $20 per month. If you already have a Steam Deck, don't mind a little bit of troubleshooting, then installing Windows on your Steam Deck could be a good option. I just wouldn't recommend running it off a micro SD card for the long term. Dual booting on the internal SSD is probably the better choice. Now, if you don't own a Steam Deck and really want to play Windows games on a handheld, I would suggest looking at the Lenovo Legion Go or Asus ROG Ally. If you buy one of those, then you don't have to worry about installing or squeezing anything. You'll have Windows and access to Steam and other gaming platforms out of the box. If you've enjoyed this video, check out the one on screen right now. See you in the next one.